You may have heard recently that we have a senator in the state of Alabama who has decided to just spew bullshit from his mouth again. Tommy Tuberville, who's our senator here in the state of Alabama, one of them at least, decided he wanted to go as part of a Trump campaign rally in front of everyone and spew bullshit that ultimately looks bad on the state, looks bad on him, should at least, and really, you would imagine, looks bad on the Republican Party. He pretty much said that, you know what, instead of me telling you, I want you to see it for yourself so you can be the judge, okay? That would be fair.
The Democratic Party, they have a majority. They could stop this crime today. Some people say, well, they're soft on crime. No, they're not soft on crime. They're pro-crime. They want crime. They want crime because they want to take over what you got. They want to control what you have. They want reparation because they think the people that do the crime are owed that. Bullshit. They are not owed that.
They think the people that do the crime are owed this bullshit. Oh, sorry, bleep. Like, okay. Let's look at the facts here, because facts are important, right? I mean, I hope they are for you, but they are for me. But for you, hopefully they are as well. If we look at this from a real, understandable standpoint, just looking at it from factual nature here, what he said was so blatantly false that it doesn't really take much effort to prove it wrong. In fact, I'm going to do it for you right now. In front of you at this very time is going to be something from the Alabama Department of Corrections, which shows you the racial makeup of the people in prison here. Now, it goes back to July 2022 because that's the latest data numbers that they have right now, so I don't have anything from the fall, but that'll probably be there relatively soon. But as of now, July is all we got. And there you're going to see that there are more black men in prison than white men. But that also proves to you that there still are white men there in the prison, right? That should prove to you on that alone. Looking at the women's standpoint, there's more white women in prison in the state of Alabama back in that point than black women. The return rate, if you will, is much higher for men, so therefore they're going to have more men coming back to prison for things they probably did numerous times, which means if there's a black man out there, statistically in the state of Alabama, who did one bad crime, and he comes back to do it again because it offers money to him, then more likely than not, the return rate for black men is going to be a little higher because there are more black men in prison now. So going back on the street again is going to be the easiest way to make more money because ultimately, I don't know if you know this, but once you're a person who goes to prison, you have now got a black mark on your record that's going to be making it hard for you to get hired anywhere. So by putting that on your resume, essentially, I went to prison for a certain bit of time, people don't look at you as someone who paid the debt to society. They look at you as a criminal. They look at you as a person who basically should not be given anything anymore. You have wiped away all that. Even though you paid your debt to society by going to prison and serving your time, even if you did honorably, and maybe you got an early release too, that doesn't matter. Because forevermore, you are going to be labeled a criminal, and it's all you'll be seen as by many people. Now, there are many people out there, business owners, that give people a chance. And I think they're great saints for doing that. But it's not that common, especially in the state of Alabama. So when you're in the state of Alabama and you are a black man, it is going to be harder for you coming out of prison more often than not. Now, even though it is hard for black men coming out of prison, it's just as hard for white men coming out of prison too, because the same problem exists when it comes to getting opportunities. But the very fact that people are a little bit more racist here than other places in the country, that doesn't mean everyone in the state of Alabama is. Keep that in mind. I'm not. I live here, so therefore that would be proven false by saying everyone is. But to say that the state is not racist in many ways, even it could be a small bit of it. It's a small bit of racism. That's a big problem because it exists and it tells you there's an issue. So by showing that we clearly have a problem here, it's important to highlight the fact that there are so many problems that black men face even without the prison standpoint of that, right? So when Tuberville goes out there and says they are pro-crime and they're wanting to basically support the people who do the crimes and then goes to reparations, we know who he's talking about automatically when we say that. And by the way, just pointing out here, I may not be the biggest supporter of reparations, but I completely understand why people would be supporting it. Keep in mind the fact of how many terrible things white men did to black people over the years. Going back hundreds of years, I can prove that. Even before the United States began, we have issues with black men and women being subjected to horrible people doing horrible things to them for almost 1,000 years now. I mean, it's more problematic in the colonial periods, of course, which goes back hundreds of years, but still an issue for a long, long time. So we have a long-running issue in our country of racist issues. Now, you might say, oh, well, that was long ago, Joe. It doesn't matter anymore. I'll have you know right now, the state of Alabama is in a big fight with the Supreme Court when it comes to gerrymandering, because they put together a map that is very, very racist, because it really opens up a problem for them. Gerrymandering, by the way, happens to be a very, very common thing in the country, not just Alabama. It's a big, big thing. But gerrymandering allows people to draw certain maps that can give them advantages. And if that advantage is something that allows you to get some sort of help, assuming you're going to get more votes, people will do that. But if it's racially motivated, which, by the way, this map was, there's an issue, and the Supreme Court might get involved in that, which they have been numerous times. Our map right now is a problem. It has been disputed, and it's not been changed yet, because even though it's still a problem and still being battled at the federal level, it still exists. So voting right now is still going to be a problem because the map still exists the way it does. So there's so many problems there alone. Redlining is still a problem in this country as well, not just Alabama. Another problem that people face. So we're just putting those two there alone without any prison situation there. Now add in the prison issue. You can understand what reparations might be a little bit beneficial. Beyond that, though, we look at the idea that Tuberville basically said that only black people commit crime, which is blatantly false, especially in our state. I just proved it to you. So I really don't know why we have a sitting senator from our state basically saying this kind of bullshit. I really don't. More importantly, he's so unqualified to be that. When he ran in our state, his entire campaign was, I support Trump. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. That is literally his entire campaign. Look at him. In fact, I might be able to find a video and add it to something in the future and show you how terrible his campaign thing was. It's only going to be based around the fact of, I like Trump. That's it. So when you see that, you know all he's doing is saying something that preaches to a base that's going to vote for him. And of course, in our state, especially in other states too, but really here as well, even though we could vote more, we don't for many of these representative or senator races. Most people vote, if they're going to at least, in the federal situation. So for president, people might vote a little bit more, but there's not enough votes for that. So we have a lot of people who can basically push Tommy Tuberville out of office when he runs again. But I just worry that we're not going to have that because of all the issues that we've seen previously. So without the voting there, that's a problem. Now, we proved years ago that to keep Roy Moore out of office, we can put a large vote in there, and black women helped to make that happen, by the way. Just point it out real quick. That vote that they brought to the table dramatically changed the landscape of all the things that we're seeing for that. So ultimately, there's a lot of proven situations here. So you'd imagine that Tommy would want to, not piss off people who can get him out of office. But Tommy's an idiot. Always has been. We're seeing that on a grand scale now.